Should Nigeria be paying for electricity generated for her but not used, even when there is a binding agreement that she must pay? Should Nigeria be paying for a multi-billion-dollar asset it can hardly maintain in the midst of a pandemic? Well, the Nigerian Senate believes that the agreement in question, signed with Azura Power West Africa Limited, is a drain on the country's diminishing resources. On the other hand, the company itself believes that irrespective of whether Nigeria defaults on the contract or not, the country will be inheriting a vital asset which has been contributing almost 10% of its electricity needs. One more question: who exactly signed that contract on behalf of Nigeria? These are some of the issues we're about to take up with our first guest on the program, Edu Okeke, Managing Director, Azura Power West Africa Limited, managers of the Azura Edo Independent Power Project. Good morning and welcome to the program. Thank you for joining us on the morning show. Mr. Okeke, are you with us? Can you hear me?
Good morning.
Good
yes,
morning.
yes. Oh, good morning. Good
I hope
morning,
you listened to my introduction, but let me rephrase it. I mean, your company has been in the news. Concerns have been expressed not just by the Senate Committee on Power, but also concerned Nigerians. And the matter is as follows. Those who have been commenting say that the Azura Edo IPP is a scam. And they raise a number of issues. They say that, one, the kind of comfort guarantees that Azura Edo IPP enjoys is not enjoyed by other independent power projects within the electricity value chain. Questions have also been raised by a purported exit clause in that agreement, that if Nigeria were to exit from the agreement, then Nigeria will have to pay about $1.2 billion. Now, again, Azura Edo, we're told, generates 461 megawatts. And at that 461 megawatts, even the what is generated, the transmission company of Nigeria does not have the capacity to evacuate it for use by Nigerians. And so the 461 megawatts looks like something that is supernumerarious. And yet, in spite of that, whether power is taken from Azura IPP or not, Nigeria has to pay about $30 million on a monthly basis to Azura Edo. So those who criticize that arrangement say that this is unfair to Nigeria. You are the managing director of this IPP. What's your reaction to all these allegations?
Thank you very much. I mean, it's, I would say it's ironic, is it not, that in Nigeria today, we have close to 30 agreements signed in the electricity sector. We have some of them that are clearly not working at all. We have some that are partially working, and then we have one that is working. And now, rather than critics probing about the ones that are not working, why are they not working? Why are the parties defaulting? It's now the only one that is working that critics are saying, why are we not defaulting on it? Why are we not getting it to be delinquent like others? And it's a funny situation. You know, when you ask this question, who signed it, there is this connotation like it's a bad deal. The question that I should expect you to be asking is, who takes credit for Azura? That's the question. And I will tell you, there are more than 2,000 people, both Nigerians and non-Nigerians, that take credit for Azura. If you go to the Azura Edo IPP in Benin, you see a very giant plaque that we mounted there because we know the importance of this project to the country. And on that plaque, we have the list of everybody that worked on the Azura Edo IPP, more than 2,000 people. On that list, you are going to see President Muhammadu Buhari's name. You are going to see President Goodluck Jonathan's name. They are the people that worked on it. And lots of ministers, permanent secretaries, lots of people worked on Azura. Now, Azura is a flagship project. It's, you know, sometimes when I speak to my employees, especially in the last few weeks with lots of news that come out, when people get worried, why are there criticisms on this project the way it's going? I say, look, don't look at this project. It's not just about the 461 megawatts we are putting on the grid. It's actually the market making where this power project is shaping the Nigerian power sector. Nigerian power sector needs to observe contracts. We need to respect contracts, and that's what Azura brings to the table. People talk about payment to Azura. One of the things they don't tell you is that, yes, Nigeria pays Azura for the invoice, but the same day that that payment gets to Azura, 46% of that money goes back to Nigerian government, 46. The only thing Azura is doing is to make sure that that money is allocated to the person who is providing the service. It's not to be delinquent here or there. It's not for me to go and negotiate with maybe the MD of one of the companies, stay in a room and discuss it. And when we talk about payment to Azura again, let's understand the numbers. Azura's invoice in the whole power chain, power generating space, is about 14%. Nigeria, the only reason people talk about Azura is that Azura is paid fully. The debt we owe other GENCOs on a monthly basis, the interest that we accumulate to other generating companies on a monthly basis is bigger than the invoice Azura issues every month. People don't talk about that. So, like I said again, it's very ironic. We talk about the only project that is working, that people are observing the contracts they signed, rather than talking about those we are not observing the contracts and say, why did we sign these contracts and they are not working? Thank you.
Well, when you say it is working, and some argue that the country is being shortchanged, because whether the power you generate at Azura is dispatched or taken or not, the country still has to pay for it. How do you then respond to those who say, this is surely not fair on the country to pay for the power we do not use, as even the erratic power supply remains the same, and there's not much of a difference Azura has brought on board? Do you agree with them that the country has been shortchanged for paying for that power that is not discharged or taken?
I'm surprised you said that the power being generated is not being taken. Azura is contributing close to 10% of the power that goes on the grid on a daily basis in Nigeria. Azura's power is being taken. And if there is a small portion that is not being taken, TCN is using it to stabilize the grid. And let's understand again, when I say that some projects are working and some others might not be working, in Nigeria today, I mean, if you go to generating companies, there are two classes. There are those that have effective PPAs. That means they have effective gas contracts. They've satisfied all the conditions necessary for their PPA to be effective. Azura is one of those. And Azura is not the only company in that group. And then you have those whose PPA is not yet effective because, based on the discussion, based on what I heard, they haven't met some of the conditions. All the ones that have effective PPA, what it means, and let's understand how infrastructure works. You have what you call the available capacity, and then you have the energy put on the grid. Your invoice is made up of two sections. One is the available capacity that you tell the operator that, look, I have this capacity available, I'm going to put on the grid. And then the next one is now the actual energy you put on the grid. That available capacity is paid fully, and that's why you are guaranteed power. For example, there is a reason why, I mean, let's assume you are not using power in your house today. Somebody is incurring costs to make that power available. That cost is going to be accounted for. And Azura is not the only power generating companies that gets its available capacity. Azura gets it, so are other companies. Like I said again, the only reason people talk about Azura is that while the other companies, at the end of the month, they submit their invoice, and when they submit that invoice, some of them are paid, and then we can owe them. Azura has a mechanism to get its invoice paid fully on a monthly basis. That's the only problem Azura has. And it's not just Azura. This thing flows down the chain. Let's understand it. That invoice, when it's paid, a big chunk of it, almost 1/3, goes to MPDC, a government entity, for the gas that they make sure that Azura has to be able to generate electricity. A big chunk of it goes to NGC for the transportation of that gas. That's how you pay the LTS, the long-term service provider, maintenance provider. You pay the O&M contractor. You pay the whole companies that are on that value chain to generate that electricity, which is being used by Nigerians. Azura is the best performing plant we have today in Nigeria, generating close to 10% of the power we use on the grid. So when you say are Nigerians being shortchanged, I get surprised.
Okay.
Are Nigerians being shortchanged that Azura is producing power that is feeding their homes?
Okay.
I don't understand.
Okay. I mean, you said that. We know all those things about Azura. Azura has even got an app that way you can check the number of power generated per day and how well they're doing. But I want to talk about two very germane things. And you talked about the payment, the deal with surplus for gas and the likes and all of that. I want to talk about two things. At first, it's going to be the partial risk guarantee. Because this morning we're talking about, sovereignty and money's being collected and the likes and agreements with other countries. But the partial risk guarantee comes in here in case of a default. There's a deal, there's an agreement that says, obviously, Azura will go to the World Bank to be able to, get some money out, about $2 billion in case there's a default. But there are Forex challenges now, based on my research. There are big Forex challenges now where MBET is making this payment in Naira. They're paying the money, but making this payment in Naira. And currency conversion issue is happening. And when Azura, you're going to pay your DFIDs and your investors, there's sort of like a shortfall. Is there a possibility that might lead to a default in the future, and how are you buffering that? Secondly, I want to interrogate the cost of the plant. Based on my research, to make 1 megawatt plant costs about $1 to $2 million US, to be very, very, very liberal. In emerging economies, it can go as low as 600,000 to 700,000 US for 1 megawatt. So the knock-on cost should be about, for Azura, should be about well over 300 or 400 million. But why was it 900 million, close to $1 billion, for the power station itself? Just those two questions, sir.
Okay, thanks. Let me start with the partial risk guarantee. So what has happened to the Nigerian power sector? For a long time, it hasn't been working. And we now had the Electric Power Reform Act to get things to work. Let the market be based on contracts. And to do that, World Bank came in to say, let's help Nigeria get things. And we have to have a template to get the market to work. Now, we went through the whole negotiating process to sign the agreement. And what does the partial risk guarantee entail? It's simply saying don't default. So now, because what I'm trying to understand from you is are you asking the question, why is it that Azura is not allowing us to default on the contract we signed? I mean, this is kind of strange to me. I mean,
that's not what I'm saying.
You love this country.
That's not what I'm saying, sir.
You want...
That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying why is Azura not allowing them to default.
Yeah, because you are questioning why. Because the partial risk guarantee, let's understand the partial risk guarantee, okay? It's not there, it's not affecting the tariff, it's not affecting anything, it's not affecting Azura's performance, it's not affecting anything at all. It's only there if there is a default, the World Bank will step in. So you are now saying, why did you have the partial risk guarantee? Which means we should have made this project in such a way that we can default if you like. No,
Mr. Okeke, you didn't get my question. Let me rephrase, please. Let me rephrase. What I'm saying is the partial risk guarantee is there. It's working. MBET is paying you guys, but the payment is in Naira. We're having currency, conversion, because you have to pay your DFIs and other investors in dollars. Conversion to dollars is a big challenge. When they pay you in Naira, before you convert to dollar, there's a shortfall. I'm saying if that continues for a while, is it not going to lead to trigger the default clause? Because it's what I see based on my research.
When the payment from MBET to Azura is in Naira, we have to convert. And let's understand the risk of MBET. Risk of MBET ends when they make that payment to Azura in Naira. Procuring Forex to pay the lenders is between Azura and the lenders. It does not affect Nigeria in any way. So let's separate the two issues. The Forex issue we have is an economic-wide problem where every investor in Nigeria is having the same challenge. It's not unique to Azura. It's affecting every business in Nigeria today that cannot procure Forex, either to pay its suppliers or lenders abroad. It's a different thing. It's not the mechanism by which Nigeria would default to Azura. This is in sector-wide, or well, let me say nationwide economic challenge.
Okay, the cost of the project. And the cost of the project, 900 million.
The cost of the project
for 461 megawatts. A lot of people say it's supposed to be $400 million. Why extra $500 million on this? Again,
the people that are saying it would be nice for them to bring the data they are relying on, because we've built power plants in this country. I mean, the last one we built were the NIPP plants. We can go, if NDPSC can give us the cost of those plants, we can go and check that. But let's understand also, when you do project finance, it's not just the cost of the plant, which is, I mean, it's almost like when you want to buy a house today. You don't expect that, let's assume a property is 15 million. There are two people that want to buy that house. One has 50 million cash to pay, and the other one is going to go to the bank to take a mortgage. Are they going to pay the same thing? Are you not going to add the interest you're going to pay? If that mortgage is 20 years, over the life of the 20 years of that project, you're probably going to pay like 100 million to that's the total cost of the house. That's the same way project finance works. You have interests that are capitalized. Those are the things that bring the capital cost to what you're talking about.
Well, Mr. Okeke, let me take you back.
Sorry?
Let me take you back to this point about the
But before, I just want to clarify something. Yeah, if I can clarify something, because when you talk about the capital cost, forget about the capital cost. What you should be looking at, there are projects in West Africa that have been done in the last 5 years. Go and check their tariff. Azura has the lowest tariff on all the projects that have been done in this part of the world. That's what you should be checking. The tariff is not about the capital cost. Though, if you look at the capital cost, I mean, these are the things. It's about the LCs that you need to put in place to secure all the funding. If I don't pay my gas bill today, MPDC and Seplat don't even have to talk to me. They have an LC that is set up for them that they can draw to recover their money. Those things are all capitalized and kept there. Those are the things that make. So don't just look at, when you hear that the total capital cost of the project is 891, you think it's just the cost of the plant.
Well, Mr. Okeke, see, Nigerians are concerned about the kind of agreements that government officials have been signing. And the Azura agreement in particular is considered anomalous for the power sector. And why do the critics say so? I mean, there are other gencos. You have Geregu, you have Motosho, you have others. But it's only Azura that got this partial risk guarantee. So, which means that within that power sector, there is no level playing field. Now, as a Nigerian, will you agree with that view? And then to go further, beyond the partial risk guarantee, why is it that Azura did not commence construction until he got that partial risk guarantee? And that's another source of concern, that, look, there must have been some kind of untidiness in reaching that agreement.
Let me, when you say untidiness, I get worried because I get very worried because I don't think you know the investors that are on the Azura project. You know, if you know the World Bank, you might like them or you might not like them. That doesn't matter. But if you don't want to do a transparent project, you don't go near the World Bank because almost every document you submit to them is out there for the whole world to see. Let's look at investors. US government, UK government, German government, French government, Swedish government. You know, you think that there is an untidiness and all these governments came together and said, we are going to put our money in this project. Yes. In the power sector today, there are different sets of agreements. But let's go to the PPA. There is no big difference between Azura PPA and the 5 other power plants that have effective PPA. The only difference is that why Azura has a PLG, they don't have. And what does that PLG entail? PLG is simply World Bank saying, I don't want the parties to this contract to default. If there is a default, we'll step in to clear it. That's just what the PLG is all about. It has nothing to do with the terms of the contract. And yes, Azura did not start construction until we satisfied all the conditions precedent to the effectiveness of the drawdown of the loan, of which we got to build the plant. And in the last few days, I know it's been out there, lots of Nigerians, notable Nigerians, we are commenting a lot on agreements being signed. And my worry is that we are kind of taking the argument to the area we shouldn't be. In terms of sovereign immunity and guarantee, there is no country in the world that enters a commercial contract and retains its immunity. Because what you're trying to say is, I can come and sign this agreement with you. I can default tomorrow and tell you, well, I'm a sovereign nation. You can't recover your money. Think of it today. If this is happening, if you want to sell Eurobond, think of Nigeria about to sell Eurobond. You go and put it there and say, but you can buy this bond and we can default and you don't have recourse to recovering your money. Tell me who is going to buy that bond. Or let's assume you have a property in Lagos. U.S. embassy comes to you and says, we want to rent this property from you. But note that if we refuse to pay you your rent, you can't go to court and recover your money. And you think you're going to give that property to the U.S. government? That's the thing. So we have taken the argument. The thing is, what we should be asking is the contract good for the country? It's not about whether we are going to retain our immunity, because no sovereign nation in the world enters into a commercial contract. You can speak to any lawyer, commercial lawyer of repute, and they will tell you the same thing. So I think that we are missing the argument, and that's the same thing on the PLG. The PLG is simply World Bank saying, we want to clean up this sector. We want contracts to work. We are going to stand behind this contract so that if there is a default, we look at the party that is cause of the default and make sure that the other party gets the necessary compensation. It does not affect the operationality of the contract in question.
And so when you look at, when you consider all the guarantees and the contractual structure of this power project between the parties involved and the Nigerian government, can you reconcile the clamor for the termination of this contract? What is your greatest concern at the moment with this generating controversies? Because it will seem as if there are more questions than answers as regards this project. And secondly, why is the Azura Power unit's price the most expensive? It's actually more expensive than all the Gencos who are also selling to NBET.
Okay, let me start with why the clamor. I will tell you that the clamor is probably my personal thought is because it's working. The contract is working the way it was designed. And some people are not used to contracts working. Like I said, I have APDC and CEPLA supplying me power. And let's also understand, the biggest lender to the Azura project, the biggest individual lender is the Central Bank of Nigeria. So when we talk about some of these things, people don't actually get the facts. So CBN gets its interest payment every month on time. I don't need to go and meet the governor of Central Bank before that thing happens. MPDC gets their gas payment. I don't need to know the MD of MPDC. I haven't met him in my life for their payment to go in. NGC gets its payment every month. I don't need to know the MD of NGC for MGC to get his payment. So the only thing is, some people are worried that rather than, they are used to, you render service, then you now go and start talking to politicians to get your money, and then you discuss the terms of you getting the payment. But for the first time, we have a contract that works, where whether I'm the MD of Azura today or somebody else is, this contract is working. Now, when you go to the unit price, again,
Mr. Okeke, sorry to
let's understand that
sorry to
there is no...
you.